Room 44 presents a psychological horror story inspired by true events. This tale is a slow descent into obsession, intimacy, and something far darker. It's not for the faint-hearted. Listener discretion is advised. We weren't strangers who crossed paths. We were in love, real love. We met in our early 30s, both loners in our own way. My name is Leonard Grayson. Isabelle Morales was a literature teacher who laughed with her eyes and believed no one should die alone. I was a radiology tech at St. Cecilia's, used to dark rooms and quiet thoughts. When she came in coughing blood, I should have seen her as just another patient. But I didn't. She was luminous even in pain, and I was drawn to her like the moon pulls at the tide. We became friends. Then something more. We spent slow afternoons in the hospital garden. I read her poetry. She critiqued my taste in novels. She asked me once if I'd ever been in love. I said, "I think I'm figuring that out now." She smiled but didn't answer. It took time. Time we didn't have. I think we both knew that. Eventually, she told me she loved me, softly, one night during a thunderstorm as I held her trembling hand. "Maybe we were supposed to find each other too late," she whispered. I never stopped trying to save her. When she died, I felt a crack inside me, sharp and echoing. I paid for her mausoleum. I visited daily. But love isn't always gentle. It can become need, then obsession. When I heard her voice whisper, "I'm cold," I knew it wasn't my imagination. I knew what I had to do. I brought her home. She was delicate. Her bones shifted as I lifted her. Her skin was no longer soft. Her jaw had slackened. But I saw none of that. I saw my Isabelle, asleep, waiting. I laid her gently on my bed and wrapped her in a lace shawl, her favorite, the one she wore during our last walk. Then slowly I began preserving her. I studied embalming. I taught myself chemical techniques used by museums. I bought glass eyes and carefully inserted them into her sockets. I filled her torso with herbs and cloth. I stitched wax into the gaps. I painted her lips the same shade of coral she used herself. She smelled of lavender and formaldehyde. I spoke to her, every morning, every night. I read to her. I changed her clothes. I sat beside her in silence. I kissed her forehead and waited for a sign she could feel it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Room 44 for more psychological horror stories that follow you into your dreams. Time passed. Months bled into years. I told neighbors she had moved to care for an aunt. When they asked about the music, the laughter, the shadow in the window, I said I was learning piano. One evening I hosted a dinner party for her birthday. I set the table for two, cooked a full roast. Candles flickered between us. I poured wine into her glass and toasted to our eternal union. I imagined she smiled. For a moment I believed she did. I began writing a book, our story. The world needed to know love didn't die with the body, that the soul could linger, that devotion could rewrite the rules of life. Then the machine came. I built it from salvaged medical gear, copper wiring, and faith. I called it the Resonator. It was designed to stimulate the soul, to awaken memory and desire within Isabelle's preserved body. I believed I could call her back. On the fifth trial, the lights flickered. Her fingers twitched. I wept for hours, but she didn't wake. Still, I kept going. A child from down the street told her mother he saw a bride in my window. She had red lips and didn't blink. The mother laughed nervously and hurried him away. In the 6th year, a psychic woman came to town, Madame Laveau. I invited her over under the pretense of a séance. She entered, looked around, and went stiff. "She's here," she whispered, "but she's not happy." I threw her out. By then, Isabelle's skin had begun to crack. I repaired her nightly. I painted her fingernails. I braided her hair. Carmen returned, Isabelle's sister. She forced her way in, screamed, and the police came. They took her, buried her in a secret grave, somewhere I would never find. So I made another, from wax, from cloth, from her hair which I had saved. And again she was mine. I moved to a remote cottage in Zephyr Hills. I lived alone, wrote daily, slept beside her. I kept a journal, detailed entries about her moods, imagined conversations, and machine updates. I built a coffin of glass, twin chambers, lined with silk. In January 1952, I laid down beside her, dressed in a suit, holding her hand, and I closed my eyes. This was the story of Leonard Grayson, a man who loved too much, too long, and far beyond reason. Subscribe to Room 44 for more horror stories that linger in your mind long after the story ends.